What does it mean to be cursed? Is it something so simple as falling victim to the words of someone else? Is that the real translation into real life of being cursed, of being spellbound, something of this sort? Well, maybe. Welcome to Strip Cover Lit, where we squeeze the bigger picture out of literature. I'm Adrian Ford, and we're here for another poetry discussion, which will appear in two playlists here on the channel. Number one being the poetry discussion playlist, now over 800 videos strong. Number two being the classic haunts playlist, 31 videos in 31 days for Halloween 2025. And no, this is not a video that was previously scheduled to be in that playlist. I am supposed to be doing reviews for The Call of Cthulhu, The Legend of Sleepy Hollow, and The Willows, and I will have those. They are proving to be much more work than I had previously imagined, so please bear with me. But nonetheless, we have what I think will prove to be a valid entry in a horror playlist here on the channel. We have a poem known as Spellbound by Emily Bronte, and it reads as such. The night is darkening round me, the wild winds coldly blow, but a tyrant spell has bound me, and I cannot go. The giant trees are bending, their bare boughs weighed with snow, and yet the storm is fast descending, and yet I cannot go. Clouds beyond, clouds above me, wastes beyond, wastes below, but nothing drear can move me. I will not, cannot go. So what is it that we have here? We have a speaker that is in a state of tumult. But in that state of tumult, cannot leave, cannot go, will not move. Why would that be? Everything falling apart around our speaker. Well, the poem itself is titled Spellbound, which suggests that there is someone else who had said some words that put our speaker in a bind. It suggests that there was someone else doing something probably not exactly physical. To say someone has put a spell on you says that they have done something, but it does not mean that they literally restrained you, right? A spell is literally just that, spelling. It was seen, I think, in early sort of magic texts, spelling was just a way to communicate. Just the way that spelling words is. That's what it meant to cast a spell. You were communicating with something greater or something other than yourself. We have kind of taken that and made it more spectacular, I think, than in many ways a lot of people who were thinking they were casting spells long ago did. But let's translate that into real life. Someone is saying something that means you are in a state of tumult. You're in a bad place. Still, you can't leave. You can't get out. You can't move on. Well, there is a psychological term for that, and I know it's one of my favorite things to talk about on the channel sometimes, but we're going to go through it again. And there's nothing you can do to stop me. You'll get that in a moment. From psychologytoday.com. Learned helplessness occurs when an individual continuously faces a negative, uncontrollable situation and stops trying to change their circumstances even when they have the ability to do so. For example, a smoker may repeatedly try and fail to quit. He may grow frustrated and come to believe that nothing he does will help, and therefore he stops trying altogether. The perception that one cannot control the situation essentially elicits a passive response to the harm that is occurring. So the same article I thought had a very interesting furtherance of this discussion. They asked the question, is learned helplessness related to feeling like a victim? Sometimes victimhood can feel like a never-ending state. This person never feels in control of their life, and this loss of control is compounded as time goes on. They are powerless, and they engage in negative self-talk, putting the self down and having no self-worth. Being helpless can get the victim what they need, namely sympathy and attention. So if you don't know where we learned about this, there were a couple of psychologists in the 60s, and I believe the school of thought, the school of psychology, was the behavioralists. From where this comes, you will understand why I think that's the behavioralists once I start telling the story, because the behavioralists kind of messed up. We learned a lot of stuff from them, but they were not cute and cuddly. They put dogs in cages, and, like a behavioralist might get the idea to do, they zapped them through the floor, through the grating on the cage itself. Well, that dog dances around trying not to get shocked because of course it does. Why wouldn't it? The shocking through the metal grating of the bottom of the cage hurts. So they're in there jumping around, but eventually jumping around does no good and their feet themselves are in a lot of pain. So the dog would just lay down and take the zapping. You're not jumping around for very long. You're not off the ground for a terribly long time. So, all things considered, laying down and taking the zapping on your side, where it doesn't hurt as much as the pads of your feet maybe, laying down and taking the zapping that way, at least you conserve your energy. Well, this went on for a while, like a behavioralist would. And eventually they partitioned the bottom of the dog's cage. You just put a little wooden slider in there or something like that. And eventually, after that goes in, only one side of the cage is electrified. So, once this starts, that dancing doggo could just hop right over to the other side of the cage and it wouldn't be getting shocked. But, having built up this life tool of once the shocking starts, I just lay down and take it. Every time that dog started getting shocked, it would lay down and take it, not knowing that the other side of the cage was not electrified. We do this. We do this in our lives. We have found ourselves in bad situations. We have put ourselves in negative places. There are negative influences in our lives, people that we know are not great for us, not good for us, probably downright dastardly for us, for our mental good, for the productivity we want in our lives. But We have taught ourselves to lay down on our side and take it. Get the shocking, baby, because soon enough it's all over. And look, those dogs, for their part, laying down and taking the shocking, it was never a lethal shocking. So in the moment, it seemed like a pretty good bet. Lay down and take it, eventually it's gone. Do you do this in your life? When your day defeats you, I call it letting the world win. When the day defeats you, when the world wins, when work is just too much, when there were too many people cutting you off on the way home, when X or Y or Z piles up during your day. At the end of things, do you just lay down and take the shocking? I bet sometimes you do. Now, would that rise to the mental gymnastics or anti-gymnastics of something like learned helplessness? Maybe not. But wouldn't it be a shade of it? So there was another article I found from resiliencelab.us. Building resilience through failure. Doesn't sound like a pep talk very much, I understand that. But it was an offer of something to do to fight learned helplessness. Building resilience through failure is an essential part of overcoming learned helplessness. By viewing failures as temporary setbacks, we can develop resilience and improve our future responses. This perspective allows us to learn from our mistakes and view them as opportunities for growth rather than definitive failures. One effective strategy is to build a sense of mastery through small tasks. By achieving small successes, we can gradually build confidence and reduce feelings of helplessness. Positive caregiver relationships can also play a critical role in developing resilience, especially for children who initially exhibit learned helplessness in school. Resilience is not about avoiding failure, but learning to bounce back from it. By embracing failures and viewing them as learning opportunities, we can build the strength and confidence needed to chase future challenges with a sense of control and empowerment. So you might find yourself there now. You might find yourself in a bad place. Ironically, it would seem, resiliencelabs.us is telling us that the best way to get out of a bad spot is to fail. The best way to get out of that terrible position is not to succeed. At little things. At things you kind of want but don't necessarily have to have. Building up a tolerance for losing. Building up a tolerance for, gosh darn it, building up a tolerance for, hey, not going to work. And knowing that not going to work, that loss is not the end of the world. Losses. Big losses, small losses, daily losses. They pile up, don't they? Pile up really, really quick. Until, eventually, it feels you'll never win. Things will never go right. That's learned helplessness. That is being spellbound. That's what our speaker is talking about. But our speaker in this poem knows there are places they're supposed to go. Our speaker in this poem is not physically constrained. Our speaker in this poem is deciding not to take those good steps. We don't have to make that decision. That is all I have for this poetry discussion. If you like or appreciate what it is that I do here, hitting the like button really does help me out, as it tells YouTube to share this video with other literature lovers. If you find yourself here by chance but not design, literature is the only thing I talk about on this channel, dropping multiple videos every single week. There's poetry every Monday, and I hope to have you back for the next one.